So hopefully if I'm on time with the editing of this video should come out 1 full month after one of the most hyped, talked about, and most controversial VR games, and that game is BoneLab. And before I talk about the game, I just want to say, this video is my opinion of what I saw and experienced in the last month, and if I say BoneLabs instead of BoneLab, I'm sorry, I can't help it. BoneLab, like I said, was one of the most controversial launches I've ever seen, except the Overwatch 2 launch, only a couple weeks later. But from people loving it and giving it praise and saying its potential is only as high as the community takes it, or to people saying that they hate it and they'd rather take their $40 to see how many chicken nuggets they can buy. And actually, if you wanted to know how many chicken nuggets you could actually get with $40, there's actually a chicken nugget calculator, and I have it up on the screen now. How can you get 10 more nuggets for $40 at McDonald's than Hungry Jack's? What are they putting in the McDonald's nuggets that they're so low? But anyway, I wanted to take a look at BoneLab's pros and cons that I've seen people bring up during the release and after. And I know recently there was an update to fix some problems, but I feel the topics I'm going to bring up really wasn't affected by the update, and if it was, I'll point it out. Is BoneLab enough? I've seen many say that what we got in the game feels more like a DLC to Boneworks rather than a technical sequel. And even though some feel that the real richness comes from the mod support and what it can do, it is really easy to see from the perspective of someone who buys a $40 game is met with a campaign that's only about 3 to 4 hours, and that's if you don't get confused and lost along the way. And with BoneLab's handoff way of letting players find out their own path, it can be difficult because most games since the beginning have shown you at least some sort of icon, arrow, or path, but BoneLab is a complete 180. But I find the way of letting us, the player, find out ourselves worked out extremely well for at least people like me who like VR for the reality part of virtual reality, because it reminds me of the times in real life where something wasn't just out in the open, I actually had to use logic. And for BoneLab to make me do the same thing, I find is great, because after all, it is its own reality. But then there's reality that BoneLab does have jank. See what I did there? Reality? Sorry. And at first, I didn't find too much jank, like I said in my first review of BoneLab, but now playing it, I've experienced some of the more body issues, like the weird crouching that might send you flying miles away, or grabbing parts of the gun that make your arm twist all the way around, or even grabbing guns in really weird ways that make you not be able to use the gun properly, when Boneworks felt almost perfect when it came to some of these aspects. And sometimes it does make me think that BoneLab might just been made to get the Marrow engine on the Quest, and even though that's a tremendous feat for the Stress Level 0 team and VR, it feels some aspects should have waited to be released. And real quick, I wanted to touch on it again. I touched on it in my last review, but the price of $40 and with what we just talked about, I can still feel and have my own ideas of why $40 might feel a little high for a VR game, because it is higher than the standard. But for some reason, after a session of getting my Roadhog cheeks clapped in Overwatch, I finally hop off, and in the last month, I have an urge to put on my headset and load up BoneLab and see what new characters and maps the community has made. And I know this is an excuse for the problems I stated earlier in the video, and I still find most of them valid, because there is a trend happening where game publishing companies are putting out unfinished games and then getting the same revenue as if they put out the full product, and just as recent as Overwatch, and this is starting to become a big problem. But with BoneLab, there's something in my little brain that just wants to get on and play as Deadpool with a sword from Doom and a chainsaw running down enemies in Rainbow Road. And I know this is a personal feeling, but even with the flaws and BoneLab just not living up to expectations, I have so much fun hopping in almost every day. But I was talking to a friend and they said maybe it was just the mods that I was coming back for. And so I went back and played the campaign and the normal parts of the game again, and I did find some new bugs and defects, and I realized that I didn't talk about it in my first review, because at the time I think it was just because I thought I was the only one struggling with it, but I despised the tall characters level because I found it very difficult to get through, and it was one of the only points where I actually wanted some help figuring out what to do. But the update did change it and actually made it a little bit more forgiving. But I do want to say it was after the game came out and it should have been play tested. But after that, the campaign was actually a little bit better the second time around with all the characters, but I do not think after the second time there's going to be a lot of replayability without doing challenges. But then the mods are just sitting there waiting for you to be done. But even with the modding in BoneLab, there are issues, like I had to go into the files of the game and add the mod list that already should have been in game. And if you don't know how to do this, I'll try to add a video for the Quest and the PC version of doing it. Overall, BoneLab is not the game I thought we were originally going to get, and it did not break VR in the most grandest way, but it did accomplish accomplish a big feat as bringing the Marrow engine on the Quest, and I'm sure that Stress Level 0 will release patches and updates to make the game what we wanted to see, but in reality, it's not what we got on release day. And if you're on the side that it's the worst and it shouldn't even be considered a game, or it's the perfect VR game we could have got, or maybe you're like me that acknowledges the game's flaws and agrees it probably should have been better, but still loves to hop on once a day and see what the community is cooking. But no matter what side you're on, you're entitled to your own opinions, and if you would like to share them, put them in the comments below, because I really appreciate all the feedback and probably will read most of them. But this was Mossy, and I hope you have a better than great day today.
No. Moiras! Seriously! Oh, hi, what do you want? Whoa, I just wanted to check how your video was going. I haven't started it yet, but I think I got a couple more weeks to do it anyways. Ain't it in like 2 days? It's the 27th. What are you talking about? We're not even halfway through October. It's, 2, 3. It's the 27th, ain't it? No way. Oh God. Where are you going?
To the store, I need a new computer.
Well, go to Best Buy. They have the best deals. I'm joking.